I never thought I'd feel completely lost in my own life. Not until the day my mom died. I still remember the hospital room, the smell of antiseptic, the quiet hum of machines, and the coldness of my dad's hand on mine. Mom had always been the heart of our family. Warm, funny, a little stubborn, but fiercely loving. And now, she was gone. Being the eldest, I thought I was prepared for loss. I had seen my siblings cry, had comforted them through scraped knees, heartbreaks, and even smaller tragedies. But this was different. This was final, and the silence that followed her death was unbearable. A week later, the lawyer called. I went to his office expecting maybe some documents I would skim through, nod, and leave. But the moment he handed me the envelope, I felt a chill. My name wasn't on the check. My name wasn't mentioned anywhere. "She left instructions for the estate," he said. "And you, Rosie, you were not included." Not included? Those two words hit me harder than I thought possible. Not included. My stomach twisted. My mom had always been proud of me, had always told me I was strong, capable, and now, according to some legal document, I was nothing. I wanted to scream, to ask why, to demand an explanation, but I didn't. Because my dad was there, sitting stiffly in the corner, his face a perfect mask of composure, and I knew better than to hope for sympathy from him. I didn't understand all of it at first, but as I reread each letter, a pattern started to form. Mom wasn't just leaving me a sentimental trail. She was pointing me toward something concrete, something hidden, something my father and siblings didn't want me to find. And then the first small betrayal revealed itself. Claire. She had asked me casually about Mom's things, but something in her tone was off, almost too interested. Later, I found a crumpled piece of paper in the living room trash, one of Mom's old notes, partially torn. My heart sank. Claire must have seen it. She knew there was something I wasn't supposed to find. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I had learned long ago that patience was my greatest weapon. Instead, I watched. I listened. I paid attention to every word, every gesture. And the more I observed, the more I realized just how careful I needed to be. Ethan, my little brother, was a harder one to read. He seemed genuinely confused and scared, but I couldn't be sure if he had been influenced by Dad too. And Dad? Oh, Dad. He was always calm, always in control, but there was a coldness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. It was as if he knew something I didn't, as if he was already planning his next move. That night, I sat alone in my room, the letters spread out on my bed. I felt a mixture of grief, anger, and a burning curiosity. My mom had left me this trail, and now it was up to me to follow it. I could almost hear her voice, whispering encouragement, telling me I was stronger than they thought. And then it hit me. The letters weren't just about finding the inheritance. They were about revealing the truth. My mother had known. She had known that my father and siblings might betray me, that they might lie, manipulate, and hide things, and she had trusted me to see through it all. I clenched my fists. I wasn't just going to find what was mine. I was going to see who had tried to keep it from me, and I was going to make sure they understood that betraying Mom and me was a mistake they would regret. But even as I made that promise to myself, I didn't realize just how tangled the web of lies really was, or how close my family had come to destroying the very evidence that could change everything. The next few days, I became obsessed. I retraced every memory I had with my mom, searching for places that might match the clues in her letters. Every corner of the house felt like a potential hiding spot. Every old photograph, every keepsake, every laugh echoing through the hallways seemed to hold meaning. One letter stood out more than the others. Where laughter always echoed, you'll find what I have kept for you. Remember, patience is your guide. I sat in the living room for hours, scanning the room she had loved so much. I thought about the family game nights, the holiday dinners, the nights she would make us all laugh until our stomachs hurt. That room had been filled with so much life, but what could she have hidden there? I began moving furniture, checking behind bookshelves, lifting cushions, even inspecting the space beneath the rug. Hours passed, and I felt like I was chasing shadows. Just when I was about to give up, something caught my eye. A small, almost invisible seam along the baseboard. My pulse quickened. With careful fingers, I pried it open and found another envelope tucked behind it. This one wasn't just a note, it was a map. A rough, hand-drawn sketch of the house and the property with certain spots marked with little X's. I felt a chill. Mom had planned this meticulously, leaving breadcrumbs that only I could follow. And the more I studied the map, the more I realized that the final destination wasn't even in the house. It was in the garden shed, a place no one had thought to check for years. But just as my heart lifted with hope, a small detail on the map made my stomach drop. One of the X's had a tiny note, "They will watch. Trust no one." I thought of Dad, Claire, and even Ethan. Could any of them have seen these clues before? Could they try to stop me? Determined, I waited until nightfall. The house was silent, everyone asleep, and I crept out to the garden shed. The old wooden door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing dusty tools, old flower pots, and forgotten boxes. I scanned every corner, every shelf, until finally, hidden under a pile of old tarps, I found a small, locked chest. My hands shook as I inserted the key from Mom's first envelope. The lock clicked, and I slowly lifted the lid. Inside, I found more letters, journals, and a small velvet pouch. My heart skipped a beat. Could this be it? The hidden inheritance my mother had promised me? I reached for the pouch and opened it. Inside were a few gold coins, old jewelry, and a folded document. I held it in my hands, feeling the weight of what my mother had left me, not just materially, but emotionally. She had trusted me, planned for me, and guided me even after she was gone. But the excitement was tempered with dread. Whoever had tried to hide this from me, whoever had underestimated me, would soon realize that I was not as powerless as they thought. And even as I held the proof of my mother's secret, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching, that someone knew I had found it, that the next confrontation was coming, and it might be closer than I imagined. The morning after finding the chest, I couldn't hide my excitement, though I tried. I tucked the velvet pouch and letters safely into my bag, careful not to let anyone see. But as I walked into the kitchen, I realized that hiding things from my family was going to be harder than I thought. Claire was already there, flipping through a magazine, but pretending not to notice me. "Morning," she said, her voice casual, but there was an edge to it, like she was testing me. "Morning," I replied, pouring myself some coffee. I kept my tone calm, neutral. I wasn't ready for a fight yet, not until I had more of the puzzle in place. Ethan shuffled in behind her, rubbing his eyes. "Rosie, did you see Mom's old letters? Dad mentioned something about them yesterday." My heart skipped. Had Dad been snooping, or was he just saying it innocently? I decided not to react. "I haven't seen anything yet," I said lightly, trying to keep my voice steady. That evening, I noticed Claire lingering near my room. Later, I found a crumpled piece of paper on the floor, one of Mom's old notes, partially torn. My heart sank. Claire must have seen it. She knew there was something I wasn't supposed to find. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I had learned long ago that patience was my greatest weapon. Instead, I watched. I listened. I paid attention to every word, every gesture. And the more I observed, the more I realized just how careful I needed to be.
I decided to be patient. I wouldn't confront Claire directly again until I had more proof, more leverage. Instead, I watched. I listened, and I let her make mistakes while I followed my mother's trail. Later that night, I opened another letter from the chest. Mom's handwriting was precise, almost playful. They may watch, they may interfere, but remember, patience and cleverness always win. Trust yourself, Rosie. I folded the letter and held it close. My mother had foreseen this. She had known my family would betray me and had left me not only instructions, but guidance on how to protect myself. I felt a surge of determination. I wasn't just following clues anymore. I was playing a careful game. A game where every move mattered, where patience, observation, and intelligence were my greatest weapons. And as I finally went to bed that night, clutching Mom's letters, I realized something chilling. The first betrayal had been Claire, but she wouldn't be the last. And the deeper I went into Mom's secrets, the closer I was getting to truths that would shock all of us, truths that some people would do anything to hide. The more I dug into Mom's letters, the more I realized that Claire wasn't the only obstacle. Dad's presence loomed over everything, quiet but suffocating. He wasn't just indifferent, he was calculated. Every word he said, every action he took seemed designed to keep me off balance, to make me doubt myself. It hit me one evening when I was going through Mom's old files in her study. Buried under a pile of documents, I found copies of legal papers, some I had never seen before. Trust funds, property deeds, insurance policies, and in the margins of some of them, in Mom's handwriting, were notes that made my blood run cold. She had been planning this for years, anticipating Dad's moves. He will try to control, he will try to take. Watch, wait, and remember your strength. Rosie, you can't let him win. I realized then that Dad had actively manipulated the estate after Mom passed, ensuring that it appeared I had been left nothing. He had the lawyer, the papers, and the siblings all on his side, or at least that's what he thought. He underestimated me. That night, I began using the letters strategically. I started piecing together Mom's instructions, not just to find the inheritance, but to understand how Dad had tried to cover it up. Each cryptic note, each small clue became a tool. I wasn't just following Mom's trail anymore. I was preparing to turn it into leverage. I also began observing Dad more carefully. He would casually mention the will, make offhand comments about my lack of foresight, try to guilt me with words about fairness. But I stayed calm, pretending to doubt myself, while secretly taking mental notes of every slip, every inconsistency, every reaction. One evening, he left a letter on the dining table, clearly meant for Claire and Ethan. I picked it up discreetly. It contained instructions about managing the estate and keeping certain documents hidden. My heart raced. This was more than just greed. It was deception, and it confirmed everything Mom had warned me about. I realized that my fight wasn't just about the inheritance. It was about exposing the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. And I knew I had to be careful. One wrong move, one revealed too soon, and Dad or Claire could destroy everything Mom had left me. But the fire inside me was growing. Mom trusted me. She had prepared me for this moment, even from beyond the grave. And now I had a choice. Sit back and let them control the narrative, or step forward armed with her letters and claim what was mine. I wasn't sure exactly how I would do it yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I was ready to play the game. And for the first time since Mom passed, I felt a sense of purpose that made the grief and anger settle into something sharper, something stronger. The next day, I would begin testing my family's limits, subtly nudging them, seeing who could be trusted, who was already corrupt, and how far Dad would go to maintain control. And as I drifted to sleep that night, clutching Mom's litters, I could feel the tension building. The first moves in my silent game of revenge had been made, and the pieces were starting to shift. As the days passed, I became more careful, more deliberate. I followed Mom's letters step by step, piecing together the puzzle and watching my family like a hawk. Every small gesture, every offhand remark suddenly had meaning. I began noticing things I'd overlooked before. The way Ethan hesitated when I mentioned Mom's belongings, the way Claire's eyes darted whenever the subject of the will came up, and most chilling of all, how Dad seemed to anticipate my questions before I even asked them. Then came the shock I hadn't expected. One evening while reviewing the letters in my room, I noticed a torn corner of paper sticking out from under Ethan's books. My heart skipped a beat. I pulled it free and realized, with a sinking feeling, that it was part of one of Mom's letters, the one with the instructions about the hidden inheritance. Ethan had seen it. He had touched it. He had known. And my little brother, so sweet and naive-looking, had been drawn into Dad's manipulations. My stomach churned. Betrayal wasn't always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it was quiet, subtle, and far more painful because it came from someone you loved. I didn't confront him immediately. I couldn't. I needed to understand how deep this went, whether he had shared it with Claire or Dad, and whether the trail Mom had left me was truly compromised. For the next few days, I watched him closely, asking questions in a casual way, paying attention to every slip, every inconsistency. The truth came out slowly. Ethan had found the letter days before, and in his confusion had shown it to Claire, thinking she could help. But instead of helping, Claire had tried to manipulate the information, using it to her advantage, planning to keep me in the dark. And Dad, he must have known something was going on because the house felt tenser than ever, the air heavier. I felt a mix of emotions I couldn't easily name. Anger, yes, but also a strange clarity. Betrayal wasn't the end of the path. It was a signal. It told me exactly who to watch, who to outsmart, and how careful I had to be. Mom had prepared me for this, and now the stakes were higher than ever. That night, I spread the letters, the journals, the clues from the chest across my bed. Mom's handwriting seemed alive in the dim light of my room, guiding me, warning me, urging me forward. I knew I couldn't trust my siblings entirely, and I certainly couldn't trust Dad, but I could trust myself. I could trust Mom's instructions. And I made a decision. I would continue the search, continue following the trail, but I would also play the game differently. I would let them think they were ahead while I quietly gathered the evidence, the clues, and the leverage I would need to reclaim what was rightfully mine. For the first time since Mom passed, I felt a thrill. Not the kind of excitement that comes from victory, but the one that comes from knowing that the tide is starting to turn and that the people who betrayed me would eventually realize too late that I had been several steps ahead all along. By now, I had learned to move quietly, to watch carefully, to trust only the letters my mom had left me. Every step I took was calculated, every conversation observed. I had pieced together more of the puzzle, and the next clue pointed me to twice I had never thought to check. Dad's private study. The study had always been off limits, Dad's domain. I remember how, as a child, I had tiptoed past the heavy wooden door, peeking inside just enough to see piles of papers, books, and locked drawers. I never imagined that the place I had feared most would hold a key to my mother's secret plan. One night, after everyone else was asleep, I crept into the study. My heart pounded, but I reminded myself that Mom had trusted me for a reason.
I examined the room quietly, looking for anything unusual. And then I saw it, a small indentation in the back of a drawer, barely visible, as if someone had tried to hide something. I opened it carefully, and inside was a bundle of papers, old letters, and another small key. My pulse raced as I read through the letters. They were from Mom, written to me in secret, describing how Dad had tried to manipulate the estate and how she had anticipated every move. One letter stood out. Rosie, if you are reading this, know that I have left something for you beyond what they can take. Follow the clues carefully, and you will find it. Trust no one completely, not even those you love. Some lessons are learned the hard way. A chill ran down my spine. Mom had known all along that my father and siblings might try to deceive me. She had hidden everything meticulously, leaving me a map, a trail, and the wisdom to outsmart them. But even as I felt a surge of hope, I knew the stakes had never been higher. Claire was watching, Ethan was vulnerable, and Dad was always calculating. One wrong move, one mistake, and everything could be lost. I took a deep breath and reminded myself this wasn't just about the inheritance. It was about justice, about honoring Mom's intelligence and foresight, about proving that I wasn't powerless. The final step was near. Mom had left clear instructions, but it required patience, precision, and courage. I felt the weight of her trust settle on my shoulders, and for the first time since her death, I smiled through the fear. I was ready, and I knew deep down that when the time came, the truths I uncovered would shake our family to its core. Little did I know, the next discovery would not only reveal the hidden inheritance, but also expose a betrayal so deep it would leave me questioning everything about the people I had called family. The next morning, I woke with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in weeks. I knew exactly where to go, exactly what to look for. Mom's letters had led me carefully, patiently, step by step. And now the final piece was within reach. I just had to follow her instructions and be smarter than anyone else who might try to interfere. The clue pointed to the old shed behind our house, the one Dad and I used to store summer tools in when I was a kid. I remember playing there with Mom and my siblings, hiding little treasures, laughing until we were breathless. That memory made my stomach twist. If Mom had hidden something there, it would be more than material. It would be a piece of her, a piece of the love she had tried to protect me with. I waited until nightfall, making sure Dad and my siblings were asleep. I grabbed the key from the study, slipped out quietly, and pushed open the creaky shed door. Dust rose in tiny clouds as I moved inside, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. I scanned every corner, every shelf, every box. And then I saw it, an old wooden crate tucked behind the tools. My hands shook as I inserted the key. The lock clicked open and I lifted the lid slowly. Inside was stacks of documents, old jewelry, and another small velvet pouch. I opened the pouch first and gasped. Gold coins, rare collectibles, and a set of papers that clearly outlined a trust fund and property left specifically for me. My mother had planned this meticulously. She had ensured that no one, neither Dad, Claire, or Ethan, could take what was rightfully mine. I almost laughed, a mix of relief and triumph, until I noticed something else. A letter folded neatly and addressed to me in Mom's handwriting, but with a warning I hadn't seen before. Rosie, if you are reading this, it means some of them tried to interfere. I have left this in a way that only you could find it. Use it wisely. Some lessons are harsh,
and some truths will hurt, but justice is yours to claim. My heart sank as the reality hit me. Dad and Claire knew, or at least suspected, that Mom might leave me something, and Ethan, my own brother, had been caught in the middle, manipulated to keep me from finding it. The betrayal wasn't just small acts of greed. It was an intricate web of lies that had tried to erase me from the family entirely. I held the papers in my hands and felt a surge of strength. Mom believed in me, had trusted me to uncover the truth, and now it was my turn to act. I didn't need to shout, to accuse, or to confront them directly. I just needed to follow Mom's plan, expose the deceit subtly, and claim what was mine. The next morning, I waited for the perfect moment. When Dad and Claire started bragging about the estate and their smart management of Mom's possessions, I calmly produced the documents and jewelry. Their faces went pale as they realized I had found the hidden inheritance, everything they had tried to keep from me, everything they thought I couldn't reach. Ethan looked at me with guilt and shame, finally understanding the part he had played. Claire's smirk vanished, replaced with a mix of anger and disbelief. And Dad's cold, calculated mask faltered for the first time in years. Mom had given me more than just an inheritance. She had given me a way to reveal the truth, to turn the tables, and to show my family that betrayal comes with consequences. And as I stood there, holding what was mine, I realized that her cleverness and her faith in me had ensured that justice was finally served. The house was quiet after the reveal, but the silence was heavy, charged with shock, anger, and a strange kind of respect. Dad sat in his chair, staring at the papers I held, the reality finally sinking in. Claire stood frozen, her usual confidence shattered. Ethan looked at me with guilt and relief, unsure whether to apologize or just hide in the background. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Mom had prepared everything perfectly. The letters, the hidden clues, the inheritance, they all spoke louder than words ever could. She had trusted me to handle it with intelligence and patience, and I had. Mom left this for me, I said quietly, letting the truth hang in the air. She knew what would happen, and she made sure I could find it. Everything she wanted me to have is mine. Claire opened her mouth to argue, but I held up the papers. You tried to stop me. You tried to take what wasn't yours. And Dad, you manipulated everything to keep me out. But it's over. Mom made sure I couldn't be denied. For the first time in years, Dad didn't know what to say. His usual calm, manipulative demeanor had cracked, and I could see the panic behind his eyes. Claire's anger simmered, but even she knew there was no way to challenge Mom's clever plan. Ethan quietly stepped back, ashamed, but I nodded at him, silently forgiving his part in the betrayal. I took a deep breath and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Closure. Mom's plan had worked. She had guided me even after her death, protecting me from the lies and manipulation that had tried to take everything away. And in the process, she had shown me something even more important, that I was stronger than I had ever realized. I didn't rub their faces in it. I didn't gloat. I simply held the inheritance, held the letters, and let the truth speak for itself. Mom's cleverness, her foresight, and her trust in me had ensured that justice was done. That night, I sat alone in Mom's favorite chair, the letters spread around me, the velvet pouch and documents close at hand. I thought about how much she had loved me, how much she had believed in me, and how carefully she had planned every detail. Tears ran down my face, but they weren't just for grief. They were for relief, for triumph, and for the deep, enduring love of a mother who never stopped protecting her child. The betrayal of my family had been bitter, and the path to the inheritance had been full of pain and deception. But the lesson was clear: patience, intelligence, and a mother's faith had been stronger than greed, jealousy, and manipulation. As I closed the letters, I whispered a promise to Mom. I would honor her memory. I would safeguard what she had left me, and I would never forget the power of her love and foresight. And in that quiet, heavy moment, I finally